Welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, where today I'm going to take you through the latest software release of the Lucid Air and provide some commentary and context around some of the features that they're offering now and saying, are those truly cutting edge? Are they just catching up to the mainstream? So I've got some thoughts. I got some comments. I like what I see, but some of this stuff, oh boy, maybe it should have been in there a long time ago. So let's get into it. All right, so let's start with the first category of navigation. All right, there are now alternate routes that are constantly being displayed in case things change, like your consumption goes up more than they thought it would. It'll interactively add those charging stops as you need them. What I can tell you is that, from my perspective, they're adding way too many charging stops between me and my destination right now. It's just way too conservative. And you can't eliminate a charging stop that it says that it wants in there. They have these little info bubbles that pop in. They display the time and the energy differences that if you choose a different, an alternate route, I like that feature. It's kind of cool. It's a little snapshot that you can say, all right, does that make sense? Should I take that alternate route or not? HVAC and some defrost settings and things like how many people are in the car are actually calculated into the estimated arrival percentage. And what's interesting about that is they're starting to take, alternate data, alt data, pieces of information and feeding it into the navigation so that it'll be better at predicting what your state of charge will be at arrival. I think that's new from the last time I saw it. It's kind of hard to find what state of charge you're going to arrive at. It's not blatantly obvious to me, but if you scroll all the way to the destination, you'll see it listed there, which is pretty good. Charger availability information has been updated to show availability by stand, not by plug. Okay, now I've been doing this a long time. I honestly don't know what the difference between a stand and a plug is. Now, if you're telling me that on an EA station, there's one stand has two plugs. Now, we all know that you can't use, two cars can't use, let's say, one plug on the left and one plug on the right. It's only, they're there for redundancy in case something happens. At least that's what I think they're there for. But you can't plug two cars into one stand. So if they're telling me that they're going to say, it's telling me that which plug on which stand is available, okay, I guess that's okay for me to know that, but I don't know. That seems like more information is always better, of course. Cool crop duster helicopter flying overhead here, doing his job on a Sunday morning here. That's pretty wild. Imagine you get up and do that for a living. Wow, I think that would be pretty cool. Anyway, the predicted range and the predicted state of charge upon arrival is now being interactively updated. That to me is new, and that's a welcome, not a welcome addition. That's like, you gotta have that in order to play the road tripping game. You need to know how many miles estimated are in the tank. You also need to know what percentage arrival you're going to arrive at based on all these different factors. And what I would say is that if this is a hint of where things are going, I like it. But are they taking into account temperature? Are they taking into account elevation? Are they taking into account, whether or not it's raining out, or if the weather is, if there's predictions of snow, wind, all these different things that get fed in. I know that Tesla does that for most of their predicting. They've done it for years. And they're also for when they're adding in, when they say, okay, you're going to go to this EA, but in the settings, you're allowed to tell it which brand of charge point operator you're willing to take. So if you restrict it to only Electrify America, because you just want to be able to use your free supercharging, well, your free DC fast charging, sorry, then you can do that. But you can also open it up to all the other ones. You know, there's EVgo, there's ChargePoint, there's Blink. And so, you know, it just, if you have multiple ChargePoint operators selected, then the system will now tell you when it auto adds what the brand of that charging station is. So, and then you can go into it. It's got pretty decent information in there about, you know, the speed with which it is. What you can also, within the navigation, and this has been there for a while, you can specify the minimum speed that you're willing to allow the navigation system to recommend to you. So if you don't want to have a 50 kilowatt DC fast charger, I use that term DC fast charger for 50 loosely, trust me. But if you don't want to include those, you can say 150 as a minimum, or even higher. Okay, so that's a pretty good feature. So that's navigation. Okay, so the next category is Dream Drive, and Dream Drive, it needs a lot of work still, of course. For example, you still can't do lane changes with this. This is a $10,000 option. And, you know, I mean, look, I realize that ultimately for Dream Drive Pro for $10,000, they're saying that the car is going to be doing self-driving, similar to what FSD does for, you know, for Tesla. But, you know, Tesla, years ago, you used to be able to do lane changes with Tesla with the basic autopilot that came with the car. And then they took that away, and then they monetizing it through enhanced autopilot, which is you know, the ability to do things like summon, and I don't know, but the main thing is auto lane changing. So look, the way that this car currently does lane changes is actually quite good, even though it doesn't do the lane changing automatically. I like the fact that when you're, let's go ahead and look at this. I'm in Dream Drive Highway Assist now, which they have an acronym for it. It's HWA. And Highway Assist, if you're just cruising down the road and you want to put your turn signal on, if you just pop it in, then the smoothness, just when I say pop it, just put your turn signal on just ever so slightly, not all the way on. So you get the 3, 1, 2, 3. And then what it does is the effort to actually take yourself out of highway lane centering. When I had the car the last time, it was significant amount of pressure to actually release the car out of lane centering, to the point where it was disturbing enough to wake up my wife Kathy, and it was really bad. And they fixed that. Actually, they fixed that before Kyle took the car for his testing, and I was very pleased with that. By the way, when you put on your turn signals, you should be able to eliminate the turn signal with a half push in the same direction that you go in. I don't know why it doesn't allow me to do that. That seems counterintuitive. You have to go the other direction. Anyway, small little niggle on me. But within lane departure, there is an update. So you could get a warning. You could get either a warning or you could get intervention. And now what you get is you can choose both. I mean, okay. So if you're about to go out of the lane, I would want to, if I want that feature to be on, I find it to be annoying when I'm driving in the canyons, because I like to get close to the lines, and it especially if you have intervention on, that is intrusive in my opinion. So I turn that off. Generally speaking, I keep that off all the time. But, you know, for those of you who like it, you keep it on. Now you can actually get the warning, or you can get the intervention, or you can get both. I mean, okay, that seems like pretty basic stuff. And by the way, whatever you choose, that'll be saved to your driver profile. So next time you fire up the car, it'll remember what you did. Now this next feature, they call it manual lane biasing. this to me is a good thing. What it does is, when you're driving down the road and the car is in, you've got highway assist on, which is the combination of adaptive cruise plus lane centering, and you see either something in the road. It could be a little pothole, or it could be a small piece of wood or debris or something like that, and you want to gently sort of go around it. Prior to this release, you would actually by putting a little bit of effort into the steering wheel without using your turn signal, you would actually disengage highway assist, and that was a little bit of a problem. Now, I will say that this car does bias itself towards the right quite a bit. I know that disturbs Kyle. There's been a lot of talk in the Connor family about where does the car should it be in the right, the center, or the left? This car to me is pretty good. I think that it used to be a lot more to the right. It seems as though it's pretty well centered now, but the point is that you can actually move the car around a little bit just to avoid small little things in the road. I like that feature a lot. They call that manual lane biasing, and I think that is a good thing. Now, if you put enough effort into the steering wheel, you're gonna turn it off, the lane centering, so it'll disengage that. So keep that in mind. But it's kind of like, allows you to get a little bit loose in the corners, like NASCAR style. Yeah. So anyway, exiting adaptive cruise, I guess it was a bit abrupt. I never noticed that, not that I remembered enough to say something about it in a video or even to thought about it. But apparently when you would exit, maybe if you're hitting the brake or if you're exiting out of the system somehow, it seems as though the disengage was a little too abrupt. So they smoothed that out. And look, I like where they're going with this in the Dream Drive. It's for me, it does everything that I personally want to use advanced driver assistance for. There are things in this car that are way better than Tesla. For example, if you've got something, a car coming up in the mirror, you got a little light that lights up. I don't know why Tesla doesn't give you that. Tesla says, "Oh, well, we show it to you on the screen." In this car now is one would think you have the ability to see cars that are in front of you. On my screen, I'm looking right in front of the steering wheel, but I don't see cars on either side of me in the traffic. And I know that they had shown this in their marketing materials early on. You can go back and check this out, and you'll see images of 3 lanes of traffic and showing whether it's a truck, a car, a motorcycle, what have you. And still here, this is July of 2023. I don't see that. That's a miss to me. And that's information that is not being presented to me. So I do have to check my mirrors more often as a result for blind spots, when in my Tesla, I don't have to do that. So, I mean, guys, how hard is that? And you can do it, right? You've shown it in marketing materials, so give it to us. I'm trying to think what else. I know this isn't necessarily part of Dream Drive, but what this car does have from a safety feature that I've noticed a couple of times that is missing in a Tesla that I really like is the cross traffic alert, both in the front and the rear. It's quite good. And as a matter of fact, it's not only does it warn you, but it's got intrusive braking if it thinks you're going to get into an accident. Now, I can't remember if that's a setting to turn that on or off. It probably is, but super good function. I mean, you find that in $18,000 Hyundai, Tucson's. Maybe now they're $24,000, but inexpensive cars have that feature. Tesla, you don't get that. It's crazy. And let's not forget that this car has the potential from a software standpoint to get much more sophisticated in terms of its advanced driver assistance, because Tesla's completely vision-based, right? There's no radar, there's no LiDAR. There aren't even ultrasonic sensors on either our Model Y or Model 3 today. And, to me, it's like, all right, we have 5 senses as a human being, right? You can see, you can hear, you can smell, you can taste, you can feel. What if you said, hey, Dave, why don't I'm going to try and do everything just by smell, just by smelling things. I mean, if you have the technology available to use all five senses, why not do it, right? Even if you don't believe in it, cost cutting, maybe, or whatever. So I like the fact that Lucid has invested in the hardware in these cars from day one, selecting providers, partners of hardware that can look. The hardware in this car is way out in front of the software, and to me, that's actually a good thing. That bodes well for the future of the car because you can always catch up with software. Even if the hardware device, if you start off with a piece of junk hardware that can't process the information fast enough from a CPU or GPU standpoint, then you're screwed. But if you've chosen the right hardware, and that's one thing that this company, in my opinion, does extremely well, is hardware designing, mostly designing all of their own in-house technology for motors and inverters and all kinds of things like that. But when they do select partners, and I don't know what they do and what they don't, but I'm sure that when they do, these guys have to have seriously high standards. I know the engineers at Lucid are super smart. They're very cognizant of what needs to happen in the hands of people like me that complain, oh, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. They look at the economics as to how much it's going to cost to put into the car, and also the reality of the payback on it. But they, in my opinion, they have chosen their hardware early on very smartly. And so I'll get off my high horse about that. And let's move on to Infotainment Reset. Isn't that funny? That's a brand new feature. I didn't realize that. I guess I had read about that and I knew how to do it, and I did it this morning, and that kind of works. So basically, what you do is you go to About. You see the Air logo, the Lucid Aero logo. You hold it in for 10 seconds, and it reboots the whole infotainment, basically the whole software system in the car. It took about 3 minutes when I did it. You got this cool graphic picture of like Lucid logo and some Arizona landscape with some cactus trees and a nice sunset. So, that made me happy. That was a good way to start the day. And then, but why did I do it? Sometimes computers get into a funk, right? They get into a bad mood. So what do? Control Alt Delete. You hit that all the time. The thing about this infotainment reset is that Lucid, being conservative as opposed to Tesla, who's not, and I like both approaches, don't get me wrong, but you can't do the infotainment reset if the car is moving. You have to go and put it in park, and you have to do it from a stop. Probably makes sense. I mean, because look, when you're in your Tesla, you can do a whole software reset while you're driving. You just hold down the two buttons, bingo, bango. You got the T that pops up, and now you don't see anything. You don't see any information. You've lost your speed. You're just driving. It's like they have a screen just in the Model 3 and the Y. You lose everything, all right? But they let you keep driving. Lucid, they want you pulled over and they want you parked. Probably not a bad idea. Charging improvements. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about this. This is another category of improvements. When navigating to a DC charger, your vehicle will intelligently optimize battery preconditioning for faster charging. Now, that's true. This is something that this was one of the very few cars that gave you the ability to manually precondition your battery, which is important because you want to be able to pull into a DC fast charger with your battery at the optimal temperature so it can receive the most amount of energy. The problem with manually being able to set your battery preconditioning is, when do you know when to do that? I'm not an engineer. I don't have all this alt data coming in saying, how far am I away from the station? What's the anticipated time that it's going to be for me to get there based on weather or traffic or what have you. And so, you know, intelligently turning on battery preconditioning to make sure that you arrive with your battery pack at, let's say, 21 or 22 degrees Celsius. Let the car do that, right? But what I also want to be able to do is see what the battery temperature is. And I want to be able to see as to whether or not I am preconditioning or not. Now, in this car, the only way that you can actually have battery preconditioning turn on is if you put the destination as to where you're going into the navigation system of the car. It's not integrated like if you're using Google Maps or Apple Maps or Waze within Apple CarPlay. None of that is cross-pollinated over to or cross-linked through an API over to the car to be able to invoke battery preconditioning. So you have to use the in-car navigation system in order to invoke battery preconditioning. The downside with that is that the navigation system is way too conservative. So what I'm doing is when I want to skip a station, if I put in, here I'm going to, 200 miles away, I've got 180 miles of estimated range, I know I can make it because I can, adjust my speed. I can either go faster or slower, sort of out of spec style in terms of road tripping. But if they jam an intermediate, DC fast charger in between where I want to go and where it wants to, and where it thinks where it's telling me I should go because, oh, you might run out of juice, then what do you do then? Well, the car will battery precondition to that intermediate spot, which is what I don't want it to do. So it's using energy unnecessarily there. So I like where this is going, but it's kind of like the way with which navigation and battery preconditioning and in charging improvements, we need to get that better. So again, a step in the right direction, but not perfect. For example, Tesla. I know, but a lot of people get mad. Dave, why do you keep bringing up Tesla? I bring it up because it's so freaking good, right? That's the gold standard. Now, if you can do better than them, then go knock your socks off. But, look, at least bring yourself up to, the industry standard. So, for example, Tesla, it's not that they're like the Wild West all the time. They will tell you if they think you should stop as an intermediate stop, just like this now does as well. But if you want to override it, you could say eliminate charging stop. Boom, now you're good. Now the car knows the battery precondition to the charging stop that you're telling it to go to. So look, the easy part about this for the Lucid engineers is the destination, right? The end game, the vision. Years ago, I worked at Lehman Brothers, right? Lehman Brothers, our logo was where vision gets built. Now they ended up going out of business, so maybe that's not a good thing. But my point is that if you know what you want to build, then get there. And I know that Lucid they have that vision, but there are baby steps and little things that they can do along the way. And that's kind of what this revision is. So we're getting there, but it's not perfect. Audio, let's go to the next category. They've had some improvements. Media search is now efficient. Wow, okay, you can select a search term from your last searched text. One other thing within navigation that is new as well is that if it's amazing to me that this is new and that they're like, wow, this is a new feature. If you had typed in a destination prior to today, let's say, prior to this release, this software release, which is version 2.1.3, you wouldn't see that destination. Just didn't appear. So you'd have to type it all in. Or if you made a mistake and you got screwed up and you said, I don't know, it just wouldn't be there. Now it is. So that's a good thing. It sounds like in the audio, the media search, you've got a similar thing where it'll come up and it'll show you your last search text. Okay, wow. You can control the volume at different levels for phone, media, voice assistant, and navigation. I know that this was upsetting a lot of people. That's a very much welcome, change. But again, why wasn't it there sooner, right? That's like, for me to be able to say, I want my navigation at 6, I want my phone to be at 4, and I want my volume of my stereo to be at 9 or 7. You couldn't do it before. Now you can. Great. Okay. It's about time. Like not cutting edge. That's just bringing it up to industry standard. And last selected radio genre or genre will show on top of the Genry list now, so that so that users do not have to scroll down the list every time they want to select their favorite radio genre. Okay, I guess what that's doing is it's saying the most recent thing that I chose before, have that be at the top of the list so I don't have to scroll down and go find it each time. Okay, nice to know. I use Spotify all the time, and I don't know if that's where they're talking about it. I never really noticed any problem with it, but okay, thank you for that. And Spotify now supports audiobooks on your vehicle. Okay, great. I don't really listen to audiobooks. I probably should, but I don't. And especially on road trips, I'm just busy on road trips. I'm always thinking, I'm always filming and doing this, and going to Pony Express museums and things like that. All right, let's keep going on here. This is the last major category, which is access and comfort. Easy entry. So my buddy John, if you're watching this, maybe you want to buy back or get your Tesla back. I know that, for those people that are a little bit height challenged, you want to be able to put the seat back when you're about ready to leave the car, and then you want the seat so you can get in and out, so you don't hit the steering wheel. Do you have more room to get in and out of the car, right? So easy entry is something that has not been part of this car at all. So now it is, all right? And so I know that was a big deal for my buddy John, and now the car has that. So maybe you want to sell your EQS and come back home to Lucid? I don't know, probably not. But these are little things. This is feedback. That what I like about this is, look, there are many people that are providing feedback in many different ways. And the more people that provide feedback that is the loudest and or the most often that they hear over and over, hopefully that somehow will drive the priority list. And I know there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes at Lucid as to figure out what to work on first versus second, the cost, the benefit, all of that good stuff. And I just, speaking on behalf of all Lucid owners, we want to thank you very hard for your hard work and what you're doing. This release is significant. I know significant. It's a heavy lift to get it out there to the users. There's a lot of things in here that are actually usable from an ownership standpoint that are very valuable. And I'm sure that a lot of the OTA, the over-the-air updates that have been coming out quite often in the past, have done a lot of things behind the scenes that we can't see. This one's got a good feel, and I like it. So I like the direction that you're going. There's just a few other things that they've put in here from a note standpoint. You can now access the owner's manual offline. So I guess if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you don't have cell service, you can read the owner's manual offline. Okay. Mobile app will display the software version of the vehicle. To think that it didn't do that is, wow. I guess I didn't realize that the mobile app didn't show me the software version. You have to go out to the car and look at it. Now you can see it on the software version. There's a couple of things that the app is good but not great. First of all, I find it to be quite reliable. The information, though, that I'm able to get, such as where the car is pretty good, but I'm not able to really see if the car is moving or not, and if it is moving, at what speed is it moving. I like to do that so I can keep tabs on my wife, see where she's, no, I'm kidding. But with the Tesla app, I pull up Junebug, my wife's Model Y, and I can see exactly where she is. I can see exactly, she's at a stoplight. Now she's accelerating. I can see all kinds of detailed information. Give me that. That is the gold standard. That is what we want. And so at least that's what I want. So let's see what else. We have made improvements to the keyboard to enable swipe, handwriting, and predictive text. That's pretty cool. I guess I'll have to check that out. And then the big one, other minor improvements and enhancements. Anyway, listen, first of all, just a message to Lucid, all those people that are working hard. I know I'm hard on on the overall experience of road tripping this car. And I'm trying to make sure people understand it's not the car. This car is super capable. It's the charging partner you've got and the infrastructure, and it really does impact my life in a big way. However, what you have delivered out is an incredibly good car. Not good, great car. This is an amazing road tripper. I'm in the middle of a trip from Fort Collins, Colorado, all the way back to Connecticut. It's about 1,850 miles. I'm banging it out in 2 days. Usually after driving 900 miles in a day, you get sore. I'm not sore at all. This massaging seat's incredible. But what I would say is if you can turn it up a notch, turn it up a notch. I want it to be a little more intense. But other than that, this car is just phenomenal. What's really bad, though, really bad, to the point where it's not a viable option for me from a road tripping standpoint, and I have to think hard about this. Is that enough for me to say, hey, Dave, do we want to keep this car because I really want a road tripper? This car is made to be the ultimate road tripper. It charges faster than anything on the market except Hummer EV. Well, who's buying those things, right? Nobody. It goes farther than any other car, any other EV, right? I mean, EPA rated range, 516 miles of range. Now, I can tell you that on this trip, so far, I'm in about 1,000 miles, let's just say, and I'm driving pretty sprightly, going along. I'm averaging 3.8 miles per watt hour, and let me just look at the trip so far. 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour, excuse me. And if you multiply that out times usable capacity of the battery pack. So this is a 112 kilowatt hour battery pack, and let's just say 110 kilowatt hours of that is usable, just because they got buffers on the top and buffers on the bottom for whatever reason. Manufacturers do that. They allow you to use just a subset, but a very large subset of the battery. If you take 3.7 times 110,000, that comes out to around 410 miles of real highway driving at, whatever the speed limit is plus some number. That's really good range. I mean, are you going to sit there and not stop, for 400 miles? I mean, I've done it. It's my wife and I, when we drove this car down from Connecticut to Florida, we went super far south of Washington, D.C. We didn't stop, and it was amazing. It was great. But for the most part, you're stopping like after 250 miles, 300 miles. So this car will give you realistically, if you go from 100 down to 0, it will give you 400 and let's say 10 miles of range. The problem, though, is the charging curve. And it's a combination of the stations being unreliable from Electrify America and so on. I mean, they're really the only ones that have the nationwide build out from a mass standard. And they're also Lucid's partner telling me to use them to fuel my vehicle. But the charging curve is so bad above, let's say, 60, 70%, that you're not going to charge to 100%. I mean, everyone knows that, but sometimes you do. With my Tesla, my small battery pack, the Model 3 long range, when I road trip, I may just go in and grab a bite and take an extra few minutes. I come out and I go, whoa, hey, car's fully charged. And then I just keep going. I mean, that's an LFP battery pack, so there's no issues in doing that from a safety standpoint or, from a maintenance standpoint. But this car will take a long time to fill it up. So real world usable of this car, because the charging infrastructure is not good, and because of the fact that the taper is not, or the curve on this car from a charging, how much it'll take in energy at the top end of the pack is so poor that realistically you're going 280, 290, 300 miles before you're going to unplug and go to the next station, which means that you don't really have the ability to eliminate chargers, which means that the you're invoking yourself, exposing yourself much more to this signet surge issue that we talk about all the time. I know this is a little off track, but these are things that when we talk about software updates, when they talk about behind the scenes software updates, things you can't see, right? Let me charge at a higher peak rate for longer period of time. don't taper it off as quickly as you do. And I'm talking to Lucid. Now, if they're doing that to protect the battery because it's bad for the battery, then I guess I understand that, but that impacts my charging experience. The one good thing I'll leave you with, though, is if you do level 2 charge overnight, and if that's your first, let's say, first charge of the day, for either from your home, or if you can find a level 2 at a hotel, and you can leave with 100% battery pack, that's when you're going to get that 410 miles of true highway range. But it's only on the initial jaunt. So if you're doing 800-900 miles on a day, you'll leave with 100%, like I did yesterday from Kyle's house, and then the second charge, you're not going to go super deep into the pack. You're probably going to leave it at like 70-72%, which is exactly what I did, which means that you're going to have to charge again on a 900-mile day. So you're going to end up having 2 charging sessions as opposed to only one, because you think, oh, well, I can go 800 miles, 410. So you got to really think about this for the way you use the car and all of that. And all this does get tied into software. So anyway, I could keep going, but I won't. I will end this video now. For those of you who have stuck with me, thank you very much. Hopefully you found this valuable. Lucid, good job on the software release. I find that the car, especially on the ADAS, is the advanced driver, the lane centering and all of that is good. It's really excellent. It's phenomenal. So keep it up. Keep up the software alerts. We're hungry for them as consumers, as users of this car. Give us more. Give us more. Thanks again for watching another episode of Out of Spec Dave, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care now. Bye-bye.